On this first Sunday in Advent, we turn also, as we do traditionally, to the Gospel according to Mark. I encourage you to find that in the Pew Bible provided or the Bible you brought from home. Mark, the 13th chapter, beginning with verse 27. Is it 27? Should be 28. From the fig tree, learn its lesson. As soon as its branch becomes tender and puts forth its leaves, you know that summer is near. See also, when you see these things taking place, you know that he is near, at the very gates. Truly I tell you, this generation will not pass away until all these things have taken place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. But about that day or hour no one knows, neither the angels in heaven nor the Son, but only the Father. Beware, keep alert, for you do not know when the time will come. It is like a man going on a journey when he leaves home and puts his slaves in charge, each with his own work, and commands the doorkeeper to be on the watch. Therefore, keep awake, for you do not know when the master of the house will come, in the evening, or at midnight, or at cockcrow, or at dawn. Or else he may find you asleep when he comes suddenly. And what I say to you, I say to all, keep awake. Here ends our reading of God's holy word. The grass withers and the flower fades, but the word of our God stands forever. Before we had holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, we had holy days. Where do you think the word holiday comes from? First, there's the holy season of Advent, and then there's Christmas, the celebration of Christ's coming. But does it seem to you that there is a disconnect there? And I don't mean just a disconnect between Christmas as a secular holiday and as a spiritual one, a holy day. I mean this whole Advent thing. We observe Advent. We decorate the church accordingly, but do we really celebrate Advent? Advent, it seems, is an interruption in our holiday season. I mean, it started this week with the great tradition that is Thanksgiving. It's a wonderful time around the table with food, lots of food, and family, lots of family, and football. Lots of football, hardly any of which went my way this weekend. We have Thanksgiving, and now we have Christmas. More food, more family, and yes, more football. So why is it that the church has to go and throw cold water on that with this text? The section right before I began reading talks about how the sun will be darkened and stars will be falling and Jesus will come in clouds and great glory. And there's a repeated exhortation to be ready and stay alert because God will come like a thief in the night. This is how Advent begins. It always begins this way with the talk of the end of the world. And so we begin the Christian New Year on the first Sunday of Advent today by talking about the end of time. Well, let's admit it, that's not very deck the halls, fa la 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 la. That talk, frankly, sounds more scary than merry. Well, maybe the Advent interruption in our holiday coming and going is intentional. It is a much needed reminder that not only has Christ come as a babe in a manger, but that child grew to be a man who showed us what it means to be faithful, a man who lived and died and lives again for all humankind, a man who will come again in glory. Yes, being faithful means being ready for Christmas, but more than that, it means being ready for Christ. We say it every week in the Lord's Prayer, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." Our text this morning are Jesus' own words to his disciples then and now to be on the lookout. He tells us that he is coming again and tells us to be ready. And then he uses an image from nature, that of a fig tree blooming, as an example of the fact that the good news is near. A textual footnote tells us that the phrase "it is near" and "he is near" both can be used. The he is the king, the it is the kingdom. What we are looking for in Advent is Christ and his coming kingdom. Thy kingdom come. But please notice in this advice how Jesus focuses our attention on the fig tree. When we look to the fig tree, we're not necessarily looking for signs. Christians throughout the years have looked for signs, misread them, and found signs where there were none. Because focusing on the signs is not what we are called to do. What we're called to do is focused on Christ and his kingdom. So we don't look to fig trees to try to read the tea leaves. Jesus tells us this parable to remind us what we're looking for and where to look. With our eyes glued to the distant horizon, sometimes we fail to see what is right in front of us. Yes, we are looking forward, but not so far ahead that we miss what God may be revealing right before our very eyes. The parable of the fig tree helps us focus on what we need to focus on. Barbara Brown Taylor, in her sermon Apocalyptic Fig, says this: "How shall we wait? Jesus' answer about looking at the fig tree sounds like an invitation to pay attention not only to what may happen in the future, but also to what is happening right in front of us, right now. It sounds like a clue that God may be reaching out to us through things that we would not have thought of as religious, even something as worldly as a fig tree in bloom." Yes, there is talk of preparedness here, and it may sound otherworldly, but Jesus' purpose in telling this parable and my purpose in preaching on it is to focus our attention not on some distant tomorrow, but on today. Jesus brings us back to today and to our holiday revelry in verse 32, telling us that we don't know the day or hour and that we should be alert. He doesn't even tell us what time it will come. Here in Mark's gospel, he tells us that waiting is like work. Work while the boss is away, but still work. Jesus says this: "It's like a man going on a journey when he leaves home and puts his slaves in charge, each with his or her work, and commands the doorkeeper to be on watch. Therefore, keep awake, for you do not know when the master of the house will come, in the evening, or at midnight, or at cockcrow, or at dawn, or else he may find you asleep when he comes suddenly. And what I say to you, I say to all, keep awake." He tells us to wait by continuing our work. And you notice in the text, each of us has our work to keep on doing. Now, what I'm saying in this is not that we need to celebrate Advent by doing more work. As a matter of fact, one of the things I try to do as a pastor is to encourage the church to do less during December rather than more. My experience has been that December is a stressful month for many of us because there are too many things on our to-do list that we think are that important to celebrate Christmas. My hope for you and yours this Christmas is that you can drop some of the things that supposedly go with Christmas that may seem to you like work, like busy work. That you'll have time instead to focus on what Christmas really means. Jesus, in this particular text, doesn't tell us what kind of work it is we're supposed to be doing. He just tells us to keep on working. I like that. We don't have to add anything. We don't have to add anything to Christmas to make it happen. Maybe we can do less. And I have to be completely candid in saying that. My wife does most of the work of getting ready for Christmas, not me. And she enjoys it. So my advice to you is do what you enjoy this Christmas. But if there's something that you're doing to prepare for Christmas that feels like work, maybe you can drop it and focus on something else instead. The truth is, Christmas comes. Christ comes whether we're prepared for it or not. Don't you remember that scene in The Grinch where he's standing on the top of the mountain and he says to his dog Max, "It came without ribbons, it came without tags, it came without packages, boxes, or bags." And the Grinch stood there and puzzled till his puzzler was sore. And then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't thought of before. Maybe Christmas perhaps doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas perhaps means a little bit more. We don't have to make Christmas. We don't have to buy it. Christ comes to us. Now, I know probably sometime between now and Christmas Day, you're going to hear somebody complain about what has happened to our modern Christmas. You'll hear complaints that the store clerk wishes you happy holidays instead of wishing you a Merry Christmas. My response to that is your celebration of Christmas really dependent on a store clerk at Walmart? You'll probably hear someone talk, a friend, a journalist, or a talk show host, about how we need to put Christ back in Christmas. Seriously? Did we put him there in the first place? No. Christ comes to us. Maybe one thing we can do in our preparation for Christmas and for Christ is to stop getting it so backwards. It doesn't depend on us. This time of year, I find it helpful to listen to the voice of poets rather than the voices of politicians. And I particularly like Anne Weems and her book, Kneeling in Bethlehem. This is one of my favorite poems. It's called The Coming of God. The Coming of God. Our God is the one who comes to us in a burning bush, in an angel song, in a newborn child. Our God is the one who cannot be found locked in a church, not even the sanctuary. Our God will be where God will be, with no constraints, no predictability. Our God lives where our God lives, where destruction has no power and even death cannot stop the living. Our God will be born where our God will be born, but there is no place to look for the one who comes to us. When God is ready, God will come, even to a God-forsaken place like a stable in Bethlehem. Watch, for you know not when God comes. Watch, that you might be found whenever, wherever God comes. Amen.